Now I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for this conference, Stephanie Harpe. Stephanie is an international advocate for missing and murdered and exploited Indigenous peoples and an advocate for human rights. We came to know Stephanie from a recommendation by our Indigenous subcommittee member, Angela Fiddler from Treaty 6 territory, who was inspired by both Stephanie's activism and her music. Stephanie is a celebrated musician. Stephanie has a TED Talk and has accomplished many achievements. An extended version of her bio will be placed on the chat. Miigwech, over to you, Stephanie.
Oh, hello, Dene. I am a proud member of the Fort McKay First Nations in the Treaty 8 territory. I reside in Treaty 6, Musqueam, and the colonial name of Edmonton. And I am, trying to share a truth many Canadians don't know. And I also am, on the ground with the people since 2015 and listening to them, collecting their stories and touring all over Canada as well. So with that in turn, I work locally, I work provincially, I work internationally with the United Nations as well, and have done keynotes for the world. And before COVID hit, I was supposed to be in London, Malaysia, and Dubai this year for the world's largest conferences for youth in the world, to tell them what was going on here in Canada as Indigenous people have to survive their own country. Okay, so I'm going to break it down for you, the truth of history, all right? So there were hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Indigenous peoples in this country. And once the settlers came, we taught them how to survive. And once they knew how to survive, they started to exterminate us. And then came this agreement, all these agreements. We did not, speak and communicate very well, but there was still an agreement made. And, a lot was taken from us. A lot was taken from us. Our ceremonies were outlawed. We were displaced from our own lands. They killed the buffalo to starve us. They gave us smallpox in blankets. They, did everything they could to exterminate us. And the reason for all of this is people want to know the why. And many Indigenous people around the world suffer because of this, is because of land and because of water, and which they don't take care of here in Canada, which they should. So unfortunately, I come from a land where there's a lot of extraction, and we have leadership. Our leadership has to be accountable for that. And this is the way, right? This is the way. So to have what's so-called treaty, an agreement of take what we have and take us from our land and dismiss us in our language and in the Indian Lands Act and the treaty, all of that. It's not valid. It has to be reconstructed for the people for it to work today. And it's based on a lot of racism. And Indian Affairs was built by Sir John A. Macdonald. How does that help us? How does that help us? Every Indigenous, job title from the top to the bottom is not employed by an Indigenous person. How does that help us? And a lot of Canadians don't know the truth of residential school. That does not help us. So this is a major, major problem. And people don't realize all of these things in the past are strategically embedded into every system that we deal with every single day. All right. And this is how it is for an Indigenous person. We do not, in all the communities, we do not have a great healthcare job opportunities. We're not thriving communities. We don't have, all the great education, clean water, and just everything other Canadians have. And that's the truth. That's the truth. So we need you to understand is all of this was strategic genocide, strategic oppression, right? And strategic racism, which is what we live through every single day. And all of that trauma, they want it to be passed down, so that we never get strong, so that we never get healed, so that we never take our land back. I got my land back. I come from great leaders in Fort McKay. So in late 1970s, the great chief and historical chief Dorothy McDonald, who was my aunt, I got to watch her do this in the late 70s, right? As a child, being with her, she took on the Canadian government and all of the oil companies to win protective rights for every single Indigenous community in the country. That's accountability. And so when I went to the Alberta government to say, I want some of my land back, to practice what I need to practice, to connect to what I need to connect to. My homeland, so much extraction, I can't do that. I can't do much there. But now they've hired me and I'm doing a lot more there. So I'm going to be going to the north of Treaty 8, and I get to go and do the murdered and missing and human trafficking and violence prevention of the north for my people. That is action. I am not waiting for the national action. That is publicly, leaked out from the minister's office as delayed. 2 years now. We're coming up on 2 years this Thursday. The national inquiry, $5 million information collective of many incidents of genocide that we've been talking about for generations, when we could have took that money and did action plans across the whole country. Action is what we need. We don't need to be, talking about this anymore. If you just listen to an Indigenous person, they will tell you, right? Now you got the 231 calls to action. That's your North Star. That's your North Star to reconstruct. And we have, the easy reference guide to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It applies to humans. If you're Indigenous, it should say it does not apply to you. The easy reference guide to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, I've read this, that does not apply to me. And I know this as every day in the 231 calls for justice. Now, we shouldn't use justice for Indigenous peoples. We don't get justice. It is different for us. And that's why we have so many missing and murdered and exploited peoples, is because the legal system and the media show out these incidences of extermination. Colton Boucher, Tina Fontaine, we have Joey English, a woman who was chopped up into garbage bags, and her limbs are still in the dump there, and in the landfill. I cannot believe still there. And when the guy got 18 months, that sends out a message to Canadians who are not well. In an overpopulated world, mental health is an issue. So you send out this message to Canadians: you only get 18 months if you chop us up and throw us into garbage bags. How do you think that makes us feel? So we are highly targeted people. There used to be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of us, and they gave us blankets full of smallpox. Hudson Bay closed their doors to food and trade. They killed the buffalo. They did everything that they could, outlawed our ceremonies, right? They did everything they could. We're still here. We're still here. But that sends out a message to people who are unwell, that want to hurt other people, that, oh, I can do that to an Indigenous person and do that kind of time. Well, they're considering it, and they're doing it. And we're 5% in most of these areas, but we're the highest rate of everything off of that's strategic. That is strategic. So we need to be strategic in our safety, in our survival today, every day. All of that trauma bleeds into our everyday of living. They want to make sure we're not well. And that's what it is. I've talked to many people, many Indigenous people. We had 13 countries come here for the World Indigenous Games. And I talked to 13 Indigenous tribes from all over the world. And the same thing, same thing. We've been exterminated, we've been killed, we've been murdered for our land, our water. So this is unfortunately true. And with human trafficking is one of the fastest growing crimes in Canada. Do you see it at the forefront of anything? Do you see an alarm? Do Indigenous people get Amber Alerts? No. We need our own. We need our own. We need our own Amber Alert. And it's just, people don't understand, and we need to educate Canadians that this is the truth. The 215 that were found. I am a residential school survivor, okay? This is affecting a whole country of Indigenous people who have been in this trauma, in this pain, in this anger, in this hurt. And the church in Canada did that to us. We did not do this to ourselves. Healing is owed. These payouts is shameful. You don't give traumatized people money to further kill themselves. You make sure you say, we want to give you help. We owe you healing. We need to get you elders. We need to get you ceremony. We need to get you your language. We need to get your kids out of care. We need to make sure we can keep your children together. We have Indigenous women that are scared to give birth in the hospital because they're Indigenous. They're scared that their baby is going to be taken away. We have children that are taken away from good homes, not even any reason to take them. That is happening for a long time now, and no one listens. No one listens. Right now, we are in the millennial scoop. We are in the millennial scoop. And I just can't believe that Canadians need to hear all this truth. We're in Indigenous History Month, right? Right? They need the truth. They need the truth. The 215 that were found put thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands in front of that. And let's not forget all of them. We don't know the true numbers. They won't cooperate. They won't cooperate. They won't help us fix this. They want to bury it like they buried everything else. And no one talks about the priest that impregnated all those little girls, and all those little girls had babies, and all those babies were burnt in the boilers and in the boiler rooms of all those homes. And a lot of them were only closed in 1996. That's not long ago. That's not long ago. So as a residential school survivor, I went to residential school. My brother and I, we came back out. We were never the same kids. I was 10 years old when we were taken, and a year later when we got out at 12 years old, I tried to take my own life. I am a survivor of every single horrific statistic that you can think of because I am Indigenous. And lived experience people are of urgent need right now. We are at urgent need. I am so busy. I am so busy. I am doing the work with my partner, Carrie Thomason. We are doing the work. We are on the ground with the people. We are doing provincial action plans without government, without these funders, without any of this. We are getting it done. We have to get it done because of empty promises. Because everything is based on a systematic racism and a modern day genocide, and that it'll never be fixed. You have to reconstruct and have the people a part of it to make it really work for us. And lived experience survivors need to be a part of that. Okay. So, with all of that going on, that's why. That is exactly why I need to break it down for you really simple. Now we need everybody, once you know the truth upon your own moral compass, what will you do? We need you to do something. We need you to include us. Nothing about us without us, ever, ever. And when you come to us, you give us tobacco, and you sit with us and you talk. We talk truth. That's what everyone needs right now to fix things. I didn't know what happened to me, what happened to my mother and her residential school. It was a generational thing that happened. I didn't understand why did I have to suffer so much until I was an adult, and I found out the truth in the history. Now I know, just many other Canadians need to know. And we need you to do something. We need you to write letters. We need you to start a group. We need you to start your own self-coalition of change. And bring people who don't look like you and I to the table. And people who don't look like me, I just want you to care. I just need you to care right now more than ever. And we see what's going on in the world. We are not fools. We need each other more than ever. So in order to have a real country and people coming together, you need to do what's right for your most traumatized people. So when you see that Indigenous person suffering, you understand now why. Now what will you do? We need you to do something. There's many things that you can do. There's a whole list of things that you can do when you go to the 231 calls to action. There's an ally list. You know, you ask people like myself, what can you do? There's many things you can do. We have to demand action. We have to demand our human rights as an Indigenous person. It's not the same for us, and you'll know that when you look at Cindy Blackstock and what she had to endure. She was fighting for, you know, Indigenous children's rights and human rights to healthcare and education and all these important things that they still don't have. That all these empty promises, and the government recorded her, followed her, spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, everything they could to intimidate her. That's the truth. So I just want to make sure that you guys all come together and we do this in a way that it's important. It's really, this is important. It's all about being human after all, isn't it? It's all about love and action. And that's what it is. So now I am trying to work with these colonial systems, and I've seen some small little changes, but it's urgent. The urgency is now. The urgency is now. And here we come up on the 2-year anniversary, as I will be on CTV's The Social on Thursday, 11 a.m. talking about our murdered and missing, and my own personal story of survival. I'm a murder attempt survivor as well. I had to fight for my life. I was so scared. I was so scared. And I know I was targeted because I'm an Indigenous person. I was so scared. I ran out of my shoes. And when I called for help, back then the police asked, "Oh, what nationality is she?" And the store clerk told him that she's Aboriginal. And they never came. They never came. So that's when I knew what happened to my mother as well. My mother was murdered here in Edmonton by her ex-stalking boyfriend who tried to kill her in another province, but he still got away with it. And he was the last person with her, seen her alive. And yeah, he gets away with it. I get to watch him walk away. And that's common for a lot of people, a lot of Indigenous people, people of color. So we have to demand action. We have to demand it now. And human trafficking, and being one of the fastest growing crimes in Canada, and being this ugly one part of these ugly lists of secrets that this country has. You know, just talk to the people on the ground and they'll give you the truth. That's how I learned about the injustices of all these other people, you know. That's how I learned. I talked to them. I watched Vice World reports where what did they do? They went right to the ground, right to the poor, right to the people and asked them what was going on. What is going on here? That's where they found the truth. And many of those people were killed for telling the truth. And this happens today. You can buy people online. You can buy children online. The child sexual exploitation is monstrous. It is horrific. And MindGeek and Pornhub have a lot to do with that. Where's the accountability? Where's the accountability? So it's not, there's a lot of people going missing. It's not just Indigenous people. Just because we're the highest rate of everything awful doesn't mean you as Canadians, you as settlers are not in danger as well. You all are. We just need you to be educated, aware, have the prevention, and take action. So that's a big part of all this story. So with the findings at these residential schools and the findings that they're going to find in the boiler rooms, you know, that's all strategic, and that bleeds into our every single day. So we just need you to take action. We need you to care. We need you to demand. We need you to rally, to march in safe ways. You know, we did a convoy for action last year, and it was very successful. We did Be the Change digital rally, and I believe 250,000 people watched that all over North America, where we teamed up with the our Black brothers and sisters and BIPOC. BIPOC, where's the A? How dare you leave out the Asian community? How dare you leave out the Asian community out of BIPOC? You need to change that. You need to change that. They're going through it just as much as we are because of this COVID, right? So let the next pandemic be love, and spread that around and educate and the truth. Talk to Indigenous people, talk to the people on the ground. That's what's most important. And just remember, we all have a raging fire within us. Just share your warmth and watch everything beautiful in the world thrive. Masicho.
Stephanie, Miigwech, thank you so much. You teach us that allyship needs to be done in alignment with the touchstones of reconciliation, including truth-telling, acknowledging our past, relating and restoring, which involves working together to challenge stereotypes and strengthen inclusion. We are forever grateful for being with us today. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Now
Thank you.